Hi guys. Today I'm very sad. I bought these alocasias. I started off with 3 and now I only have 2. So what we're going to do today is we are going to repot these. I have done a little bit more research on the specific care for these. I didn't realize that they would be different. I knew that they liked a lot of humidity, but I found that the watering for them is super different. So we'll get into that a little later. And we're going to see if I can bring these babies back to life. Okay, so first things first, you should know your plants before you buy them. So I bought these alocasias. I bought 3 of them all together. This is the Alocasia Melo, and then I think this is the black velvet. It just looks really, really bad. I don't really remember. I think it's the black velvet because of it's got that texture to it. And then this one is kind of more hardy and rough. So this would be the Alocasia Melo, or it's also called the rugosa. Rugosa, yeah. And then the other one I had was the Alocasia Nebula, and that one I killed immediately. So I made the wrong assumption that you water these the same way you do every other tropical house plants. Like overwatering isn't necessarily about the quantity of water per watering session. It's making sure that it drains really well so that way excess water doesn't sit in the soil. So the soil that these came in are very, very chunky already, so I assumed that it wouldn't hold on to all of that excess water, but it definitely did. And the rhizome in the Nebula completely rotted out. Like I went to go check on it, the leaf fell off. There was one stem completely just fell off, and then I went to go pull it out of the pot and repot it, and it was just mush. So yeah, that's where I messed up. So with these ones, I did research before I even touched them, and they are a rhizomatic plant, which I struggle with the most because I tend to overwater my plants. I think I'm doing them a service by giving them water, and a lot of times I'm not. So with these ones, the watering, what you want to do is you want to do a little bit of water every couple of days. Not oversaturating the water, but enough to make it moist. And you want to do that, so less water every couple of days, more often, rather than more water less often. And you also want to aim along the outsides. You don't want to water directly on top of that rhizome, or else it's just going to sit there and it's going to rot, and it's not going to be good. So you want to aim for like around the edges rather than directly on top of the stem. So that way the soil around it can soak up the water and give it to the roots and what they need, rather than the rhizome sitting in that mushy soil. But in my situation, since we are already on a pretty rapid decline, I've had these for 2 weeks. The first week, they sat in the open. I have a humidifier. I have a couple of other misters going next to them, and it was not happy there at all. So instead what I did is that I set up kind of like a quarantine grow tent in my bathroom, or what people would be doing with an IKEA cabinet. It's kind of the same situation. So I put them in my bathroom with a purple grow light versus the regular grow light, so that way I can leave it on longer. I don't know if there's actually any logic to that, but I feel like I can leave the purple light on longer than I can the regular grow light. And I put it in there. It's getting lots of humidity from the showers, from my baths. There's also a mister in there too for when it does feel a little bit less. This is the first time I'm buying a meter for humidity, just because I want to know exactly what we're sitting at. Because what I'm seeing online is that 75% humidity is ideal for these plants, which is the highest that I've seen for a tropical plant so far. Like usually 60% is okay, and that'll make them happy, but more 75% would be better for these. And I live in a desert, all right? It is dry, and I am constantly fighting to keep my apartment humid. So they're gonna stay in the bathroom, probably indefinitely. Even if they start being healthy, they're just gonna be bathroom plants. Like, it's either that or an IKEA cabinet or like a dome or something like that. So the care for these is definitely more hands-on, more needy. You can't really forget about these. And I think I'm ready to progress into that. As far as potting goes, so they want to be more root bound. They don't want to have a whole lot of excess space, because again, that just leaves too much room for the rhizome to rot. There's too much soil to just be mushy. So we are going to do these smaller orchid pots. Like, I think these pots are just too big, and that's one of the reasons why they're rotting and not so happy. So we're going to go into a smaller pot, lots of drainage holes, and I'm going to do 100% perlite instead of any soil whatsoever. My camera wasn't recording. It froze up on me. Anyways, so when it cut off, I was saying that I water all of my plants with water from my aquariums. I got 2 of them, so I get a plethora of fish poop to use as fertilizer. And so you could do that if you have aquariums. That's like a pro tip. If you don't, you by all means can order online, or online's probably the best option, honestly. Nutrients and fertilizer. I would definitely, especially since we planted in perlite, since this has no nutrients, you could use like a hydroponic type of nutrient fish or plant food, stuff like that. Just whatever you need, just balanced nutrients that you would give any sort of plant is fine. So I did do this first one already, and my camera didn't catch any of it. But that's okay, because the root system on the second one looks way better. So this is our final product. This is what we're going to be doing. I put it in an orchid pot, so that way we have really good drainage. And then I kind of just plugged up the hole in this terracotta pot, and we're going to put it in that. So that way, honestly, bottom watering this would be better, I think. I think that might be better. I do that with bottom watering is better for plants that tend to rot very easily. So we're just probably going to do that and have it water from the bottom, so that way it constantly has moisture, but not too much that it's sitting in wet feet. All right, so this is our final product. And then now we are going to be working on this one here. So that's the root system this is the black velvet one, which it doesn't look too bad. The rhizome looks good. No babies, which I kind of expected considering they're not happy. This isn't even all of the roots that it had coming out. A lot of the roots did come off, but that's okay. We will make new roots, and I got perlite all over these roots. That's okay. So you pull it out of the pot, you get as much of the soil off of it as you possibly can. I put leca in the bottom of this just because all of the perlite, as you can see, is falling out of the bottom. So that's just because I'm stupid. And now we're gonna fill up the rest of it with perlite without choking myself like I did last time. All right. No wonder they say not to breathe this stuff in because I am dying. Since the roots are so long, I'm gonna make sure I can get them in there really well. Also with these orchid pots, because they're clear and they have so many holes, I'll be able to keep a better eye on the root system than if they were in like a normal pot, you know. In a normal pot, you kind of just have to see if they're healthy by what their leaves look like. Well, these leaves look pretty bad regardless, like from the get-go, so I can't really tell that way. So this way I'll be able to keep a better eye on them. Oh, also, I was talking about, in the video that didn't get saved, I was talking about the propagation for these. I think I didn't get that on video. I think that was in the one that was deleted. So the propagation for rhizome plants, this is all rhizome, so like alocasias, ZZ plants, peace lilies, things like that. You can't propagate them from leaf cuttings like you can like the monstera or most tropical houseplants that you find online. You can propagate through leaf cuttings. But these you can't do that because the growth point is in the rhizome, which stays underneath the surface, you know, underneath the surface of the substrate. So what you have are, when you go to repot them, you'll find like little baby corms is what they are called, C-O-R-M-S, corms. And it's like little baby rhizomes, so they pop out babies like an aloe vera does or a spider plant does or whatever. And then if you want to propagate them, you can take those out and put them in a separate pot and they'll grow a whole new plant. So then you have multiple. Another thing that you can do is if you have one rhizome, I saw this online, one rhizome that has 2 leaves, take like a razor cutter or something, a really sharp knife, and you cut down the middle of the rhizome and you split the rhizome in 2, where each section has roots coming from it, and you do it completely down in the middle, and then you separate those 2 into 2 separate pots. They'll also reestablish themselves as a full rhizome. So you can kind of do it like that too. Because that is definitely my intention with these, is to propagate, make babies, make more. These are my first alocasias, and I just love the leaves. I think the leaves are gorgeous. They're interesting, and I think it's a new challenge for me because this is my first attempt at kind of like the rare plant realm, and kind of testing my skills on a more complicated, meaty plant. And so we're gonna see how good I am, or maybe I'll fail horribly. Alright, so I've got this plant in here. Since the perlite is dry, it's not supporting it very well, but the second I get the perlite wet, it'll stick perfectly and give it lots of support. So this one is actually going to go in this terracotta pot, which does not have a drainage hole and is glazed on the inside. So that way it can hold all of that excess water on the bottom, and the plant has access to it whenever it wants it. Like the roots can extend through the holes of the orchid pot into the terracotta, into the water that's there, and the perlite will also like suck it up. So again, when you're watering, you want to avoid watering directly on top of that rhizome. You kind of just want to go around it. I'm watering more this time than I would any other time, just because the perlite is completely bone dry. So do not take this as an example of what to do every single time, because right now I kind of need more water, but it's perlite, so it's all going to drain to the bottom. And then I'm going to position it the way that I want. You kind of just push that perlite up against the stem to give it a little bit more support, and it's going to hold it so well. I normally don't use 100% perlite as a substrate to pot in, just because I hate the consistency of perlite. It's so messy, but I feel like these require it for sure. And it's not going to be so abrasive on the roots as Leca would be, I think. I don't know, but what do I know? I don't know anything. I'm a bad plant mom. Alright, that's the whole point. I only can give tips and advice based off of the mistakes that I have made, which was resulted in the death of one of these already. So, pro tip number 1, do your research. For every single plant. Don't just assume you know what it's going to take, what it needs. Just do your research. Just figure it out. And if you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, it's a good thing you looked. So that's our final product there for this one. And then we've got this one. And they're going to go back into the bathroom to get all of the humidity that it could possibly need. And hopefully they'll be happy and they'll thrive and be 100% better than they used to be. Okay, I just wanted to show you the bathroom situation that these alocasias are going to be in. Sorry about the fan, it's kind of loud. I can't not have the fan on. But I set this up. We've got a mister here when it wants to mist. So that's a mister. And then, so I've also got some syngoniums in here that are not so happy. There's going to be a video on that later. And we have this purple grow light. It doesn't have a switch or anything like an on off, so it's just on all the time. I had a Scindapsus in here underneath the same conditions, and it thrived. It was popping out all sorts of new leaves really quickly all the time, and it just was really happy in here. So I think this will be okay for these guys. And we're just gonna go boop. I also spend a whole lot of time in here, so I'll be able to keep just kind of like a constant eye on them, just from getting ready, taking baths, things like that. So there's that little syngonium. We'll tuck you in the back there. I kind of call this like my money corner. My expensive plants that I'm afraid of killing are gonna stay in here just because my apartment is way too dry. Alright, so that's that, and then we'll definitely give updates on how they do. We'll give it like a couple of weeks, maybe a month. As soon as I see any progress, we'll do another kind of like update video for you guys on whether or not this is going to kill them. Alright, so now that we have the alocasias in their home, in their permanent spot, and they seem happy and rejuvenated, I think that's going to be a much better situation for them than what they were in before. And that was the reason why the previous owner was having a hard time with them. She also lives in Las Vegas in the desert where it's very dry, and she was having a hard time keeping them alive, so she did the right thing in passing them on to someone to have a better shot. So hopefully I can do them some justice, but you never know. I could just be a horrible plant mom and kill everything. So in maybe a month or two, we'll do an update video just to see on the progress that they've done, so that way we can really test what I would set up and see if it works. If not, then we'll try something else. It's kind of the glory of this channel is that I have no idea what I'm doing, and I don't think any of us really do. So I'm really just running experiments and seeing what works and what doesn't, and then sharing that information with you guys, so hopefully it helps and you guys can learn from my mistakes rather than also killing all sorts of plants for you, because none of us like doing that. If maybe you have some better tricks, or if I did something terribly wrong, definitely let me know down in the comments. Subscribe if you want to see more content, like if you appreciated this video, and tell me what I did wrong, because I'm sure I did something. I don't know. We'll find out. Bye.